What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? This is my NHL breakdown for Thursday, February 4th. Thank you for joining us here on odds.com. I had 4 games and either 8 or 9 picks set, but the Colorado Avalanche Minnesota Wild game was just postponed a few minutes ago, so we cut that game from our card. So we are breaking down 3 games, and I have 6, quite possibly 7 bets that I will be making. Let's attack this card right now. We start at 7 p.m. Eastern for Dallas Stars at Columbus Blue Jackets. Those of you who saw my action 2 nights ago know that I backed the Blue Jackets on the -1 line and the first period, which were losers, but I also backed them on the team total over 2.5, which was a casher, which kind of limited the damage. And yes, I am going back to the well. Columbus opened up at -105. They're still there at a couple books, but most of the books have moved this into quite a decent underdog spot for Columbus. They are now between -105 and +110 at some books. Money coming in on the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars are playing good hockey. But we just watched them lose 2 games, and I'm talking about Dallas now, to Carolina to start off this road trip. They played very well on Tuesday night against the Jackets in a 6-3 win. And I was surprised how public of a bet the Dallas Stars were. I thought that more people would be excited about the addition of Laine to the Blue Jackets lineup, and that didn't come to fruition. We had like 75% of the money and tickets on Dallas, and it seems like that is happening here again. So I'm making 3 moves on this game, and one will be the Jackets -1. But there's no rush for me. The puck line is not available right now. But even that money line, there's no rush for you to get in on it. Money's coming in on the Dallas Stars, so just sit back and wait. What there is a rush to get in on that I've already bet is the over 5 -130. Get on that. Now, I don't bet anything in NHL over a -135 juice. And -130 is cutting it pretty close. But this is a market mistake on this Blue Jackets team. They're nothing like they were last year. They have so much more offense and so much less defensive accountability from their forwards. So I'm going right back to the team total over 2.5. I got -120 on this spot 2 nights ago. I'm curious to see what I'll get. And I wouldn't hate turning it into a 3 for a plus money score. And I'll again make that decision when the market is available. But I will be moving on 3 different spots. I've already moved on the over 5 -130. I will be moving on the Jackets -1, and I will be moving on the Jackets team total at either 2.5 or 3. Let's break this game down. Dallas Stars 5-1-1. 1-1-1 on the road. Blue Jackets 4-4-3, 2-1-2 at home. We're at Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. We expect Anton Khudobin to be between the pipes. 3-1-1 on the season, 2.17 goals against, average .922 save percentage, 1 shutout. Jonas Korpisalo started in that game 2 nights ago, and he was getting lit up immediately. He was getting touched immediately, and it shocked me that Torts let him in. I thought surely after Dallas Stars scored that 4th goal, Torts would hook him, and he's so quick on that hook, and he's often too quick, and he left Korpisalo in there. 5th goal comes in, and then he brings in Elvis Merzlikins. Jonas Korpisalo has been fine this year. 2-2-2, 2.83 goals against, average .918 save percentage. But I'm not sold on him. And are we going to give Elvis Merzlikins more of an opportunity? That's the question. He's 2-2-1, 2.76 goals against, average .913 save percentage. The Stars' special teams have been excellent. Their power play has been absolutely spectacular. What an incredible signing of little Joe Pavelski over a year ago. Not only does he create accountability, because we know that the Dallas star players, I should say, in Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin have often not had that accountability. This is for a long time not being a team you could trust. You didn't trust them early in the season. You didn't trust them after an all-star break. You didn't trust them. There were so many situations where you wouldn't trust them. And one of them was at the end of a road trip when I often thought that Ben and Seguin just wanted to go get home. Little Joe has changed that. What else has he changed? This power play. Now, his arrival came with the incredible play of Heiskanen They're very young defensemen, very high draft pick. They already have Klingberg, who's a spectacular power play defenseman. Now you got Heiskanen and Klingberg back there. There's maybe across the rink with Seth Jones and Zach Werenski, is there a better power play defensive pair? But I don't know if they are. The Klingberg and Heiskanen are spectacular. And I've really fallen in love with young Heiskanen. The Stars' power play is at 40.6%. That's outstanding. It can't possibly stay up there. Or can it? I just don't see it staying up there. Their penalty killing 78.1%. Good enough and probably will improve. The Jackets' power play has been terrible all year, 13.8% power play. The market remembers this Jackets team as having a terrible power play. Patrick Laine will change that. He will change that. Their penalty killing is at 80%. They've always had strong penalty killing. Start with the Stars. So after losing those 2 games at Carolina to start this 4-game road trip, they got right on Tuesday in a 6-3 win over these Jackets. Little Joe, 2 goals, 2 assists. He has 7 goals and 7 assists on the season. So 14 points here in 7 games for little Joe Pavelski. And to think another bonehead move by Doug Wilson. What a terrible GM he is over in San Jose to think that little Joe was done. I can't believe Wilson still has his job. Guy would have been long gone if I was in charge of that franchise. Jamie Benn had a big game with 1 goal and 2 assists. He's an important piece. You need him focused. You need him rolling. Dallas outshot the Jackets 33-26. They beat them in the faceoff circle 31-24, and they were clearly the better team. It did not look like the Stars missed Tyler Seguin at all. Their first line of Rupi Hintz between Jamie Benn and Alexander Radulov is strong, and it's very strong. Even though the Corsi numbers don't show that, the Corsi numbers have this as the 20th best first line in the NHL, and they're better than that from the eye test. But you have to use both the eye test and the Corsi numbers. Joe Pavelski's carrying that second line, Jason Dickinson and Dennis Gurianov. Their top 4 D-men are very strong. And I've already talked about my love of Klingberg and Heiskanen. You have Esa Lindell playing with Klingberg on that first unit. Then you have Heiskanen and Jamie Oleksiak on the second unit. So Klingberg is the number 7 ranked right defenseman in the NHL. Heiskanen is the number 9 ranked defenseman, or left defenseman, in the NHL. And separating them keeps one stud on the ice at all times. This is much to my chagrin, something I hate saying. Dallas Stars team is a good hockey team, but I am fading them here. Columbus's first game with Patrick Laine on the ice did not go well. He led the team with 20 minutes and 54 seconds of playing time. He was a -2. He only had 2 shots on goal. He had a penalty called on him. He drew a penalty. He needs to draw more. His legs looked heavy. He was breathing heavy. He said that his head wasn't right. And just the last game he played was the first game of the season. He scored 2 goals in that game for the Jets. Then he got hurt. Then he got traded. And then he had to get the visa papers to work in the States. He also had to be quarantined for 7 days. It was very complicated. This should be a very dangerous line of Line A, Texier, and Atkinson. And they have depth now. That second line, Boone Jenner, Roslovic, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. Nice second unit. I guess there's no real difference between the second unit and the third unit the way I see it. And the third unit probably has more to offer than the second unit. But that's what I mean about depth. This third line, Mikhail Grigorenko, Nick Foligno, their captain, and Max Domi on the third unit. And it just seems like wherever Max Domi goes, losing follows. But I like this hockey team. I'd sure like it better if Josh Anderson was still on this team. But he was traded for Domi. The key thing here is this isn't last year's Jackets. The market is not caught up in how offensive this team is going to be. Torts is going to keep a tight rope. He's going to keep them playing defensive. 5? You're going to give us a 5 in Columbus Blue Jacket games? And clearly, on Tuesday, I should have taken the full game over. Instead, I just took the Jackets team total over. But this team is going to score goals. And with Laine, Domi, this team is not going to be accountable defensively. We're going to hammer overs. Overs all year long. And by the end of the season, there won't be 5s and there won't be 5.5s, but you'll see 6s. You'll even see 6.5s. That's how wrong I think the market is on the offense of Columbus Blue Jackets. That is game 1. 3 moves. One I've already bet. I've already bet the over 5 at -130. Next up is that team total over 2.5. Again, I might go for a score and put it at 3. I might, depending on the juice. And on Tuesday night, I got the team total over 2.5 -120. And then the Jackets -1. That will be a big, juicy score. That'll be easily over +200. Next up, 7 p.m. Eastern, Vancouver Canucks, 6-7-0, 2-5-0 on the road at the Toronto Maple Leafs, 7-2-1, 3-1-0 at home. This is at Scotiabank Arena, and a big, big game for us up north. The Vancouver Canucks opened up at plus 150. They've quickly moved to plus 160. And we'll get to where I think the value is in a second here. This total opened up at 6.5, juiced to the under. It quickly moved to the over. And I have been late to the party on the Toronto Maple Leafs over 6.5 for the last 2 years. And those of you who followed me and capped with me in NHL, I've never liked to go over 6.5. When I see 6.5s, I just always think under. And so when the Leafs were hanging these 6.5s and everybody was hammering over, I stayed off. And it was a mistake. I watched my friends cash, and I was just late to the party. In saying that, I'm not going to be late here. I am going to take the over 6.5. And I'm also going to take the Vancouver Canucks team total. I expect that I can make it a 3 and get a pretty price on it because they're such big underdogs. Now, look, the Canucks sitting at plus 160 for a team with their kind of offense. Is that appealing? Yes. But I will not put money on the Vancouver Canucks with Braden Holtby in goal. Ever. Not all year. Holtby's 3-3-0, 3.63 goals against, average .896 save percentage. I hated that signing. So much. When I see Tyler Toffoli in Montreal Canadiens uniform and think that he's making, $300,000? I know he has more term, but he's making $300,000 more a year than what we're playing Braden Holtby. It makes me extremely angry. Just makes me want to throw my computer through the window. It's such a mistake. Ugh. Frederik Andersen, 5-2-1, 3.01 goals against, average .892 save percentage. He seems to always come slow out of the gates, but he doesn't have much of a defense to help him. The Vancouver Canucks power plays at 14.9%. This team is scoring goals, and their power plays at 14.9%. This power play will end up around 24%, and it's at 14.9% right now. Wait till this power play heats up. Their penalty killing 80.4%, which is it's not great, but it's actually better than what I expect from how bad this defense is. The Leafs power play is being spectacular so far this year, 43.3%, and they have snipers. 4 snipers that are as dangerous as any 4 in the league. And starting with Mitch Marner, he's sitting there with 14 points. And you got Austin Matthews, Johnny Tavares, William Nylander. Those are 4 elite scorers, and their power play shows it. Their penalty killing is at 76.9%. I think they're going to have a weak penalty killing all year. I simply do not trust their defense. So let's talk about the knuckleheads here. It's clear that the Canucks are porous defensively. They're coming off more bad losses to the Canadiens. Another thing that's clear is the Canadiens are a much better squad than the Canucks at this point in the season. They were clearly the second best team on the ice. They lost 6-2 on Monday and 5-3 on Tuesday, and this is going to be their third game in 4 nights, which means you can expect if the Canucks get off to an early start, I'm not going to do this. If the Canucks get up 2-0 or 3-1, then the Leafs in play would be a play to make. And the reason why I say I'm not going to do this is not because of the fact that they're the Canucks and they're my favorite team, my homegrown Nucks, but it's the fact that I do not trust this Leafs team, and I think their record is better than they are. Let's continue talking about these Nucks. Their defense is weaker than I imagined. We now see why the Knights didn't want Nate Schmidt, traded him for a 4th-round draft pick. Nate Schmidt at one point was exceptional. And then he got busted for PEDs. He simply has not looked like the same player since. I rallied against the signing of Tyler Myers. I hammered against the signing. I have a bunch of friends that are big Winnipeg Jets fans, and they didn't want Tyler Myers. He was a third-line defenseman. When he went to us as a free agent, they said, good riddance. You're going to pay that third-line defenseman way too much, and he's our second-line defenseman right now because we got Edler on the third line. But he's bad. He's just bad. So while this defense is weak, they're allowing 3.94 goals per game. This offense is strong. They're scoring 3.69 goals per game. It'll keep them in games. And I'm not going to back them with Holt being goal ever. I expect Thatcher Demko to get hot at some point and start playing multiple games in a row, but right now they're going back and forth. The Leafs played well on their recent Alberta road trip. And I'm not sitting here fading this Toronto Maple Leafs team. I just don't trust them. And they're always going to be overbet, at least with Canadian sports books like Bet365. But they have a prolific offense. Their defense hasn't been abused yet, but it will. It will. Morgan Rielly is a -4 right now, their best defenseman. He's a -4 on a team that's 7-2-1. This team will cash you overs when they're playing like-minded teams, and the Canucks are certainly one of those. Now, against Calgary, their games didn't all go over. Their games against Edmonton, they didn't all go over. Because when you play this hockey team, if you have the right pieces, you try to shut them down and play defense. The Canucks don't have those pieces. They have to go out there and beat them. They have to go out there and score more goals than them. I'm doubling up here. I'm on the over 6.5. That's already been bet, a -120. And then I'm going to take the team total for the Knuckleheads when it's available for me. And because they're such big dogs, I figure I'll get a nice price with it. That's what I figure. We move on to my final game on the card. 8 p.m. Eastern, Arizona Coyotes, 3-5-1, 0-3-0 on the road. This team is easy to play against small forwards, not a lot of heart. Their toughest guy is their coach, Rick Tocchet. You're going to see this team lose on the road on a consistent basis. At the St. Louis Blues, I am going to move on this over 5.5 at +115. It took me a while to understand that these over 5.5s should be bet against any team playing the Blues. The Coyotes played 2 very low-scoring games against the Ducks. The Blues are a very different team than they are last year. And this Coyotes team sort of plays the style of whoever they're playing against. And this Blues team is going to score. And you're going to get a +115 on the 5.5. That is juicy. Juicy to the extent that it's a must bet. We're at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm also going to take a close look and see what the Blues team total over is. Again, if I can get a nice spot when I turn it into a 3, I'll be betting it. And by turning it into a 3, my book only has 2.5, 3.5, and so on. It's the same way that we build the -1 line. There's no difference. You just use the same calculator and you build it into the 3. Darcy Kemper in net for these Coyotes is what we expect. 2-5-1 on the year, 2.65 goals against average, 905 save percentage, 0 shutouts. And he's having a tougher time defensively. And he will, because Oliver Ekman-Larsson's been hurt. He's a very important defender for these Coyotes, and he's going to be back quite soon. He could even be back for this game, but I don't expect him to be, but he could be. Jordan Binnington, 6-1-1, 2.55 goals against average, 917 save percentage, no shutouts. Coyotes power play, 20.6%. Looks pretty good. Got Fat Phil Kessel out there. They're playing nice, and their defense has always been nice offensively. Their penalty killing, 82.4%. That's coaching. And you need to have certain you have to have key players. The Blues are a very interesting squad. And I think the market is way off on how offensive they are. Their power play has been terrible, 12.5%. 12.5%. Their penalty killing has been terrible at 69.5%. And yet they're 7-2-1. What happens if this special teams gets rolling? Well, they're going to win a lot of games. I'm not that high on them, and I'm certainly not that high on them as a big favorite. So I won't be betting them here. But for offense, this team has changed so much, and we'll get into that. But let's start with the Coyotes. These teams met in the 4-3 St. Louis Blues win on Tuesday night. The Coyotes play hard. They outshot the Blues 35-29. They lost the face-off battle with 33-26. They played hard, but they're so small. I mean, I was watching this game and I was like, man, these Coyotes are playing hard, and it's a non-issue. That's how soft this hockey team is. Christian Dvorak continued his strong play, 4th and 5th goals of the year. He's got a point a game so far this year. The Coyotes are not built to play conservative hockey, and Tocchet has them playing a conservative system, and I get it. I get that he's doing that. I can understand. I imagine that almost all coaches will probably set a precedent of a conservative system and then start allowing their star players to open it up a little more as the season goes on. But if you look at this lineup, it's all offensive forwards. I mean, their top 9 is all offensive forwards. Their centermen are a weak group. This team has to score to be in games. Again, they played in those low-scoring games against the Ducks, but that's not a sign exactly to me of what the Coyotes are going to be. This St. Louis Blues are so different than we remember them. So much more offense. They average 3.07 goals per game, but that's going up quickly, and the market hasn't caught up. They're on a 4-game winning streak right now where they've averaged 4.75 goals per game. Toronto boy and former Sarnia Sting star Jordan Kyrou as being excellent. Who would have thunk that this 2016, I believe he was a third-round pick in 2016 draft, would be this awesome? I mean, the Blues had been expecting Robert Thomas, their first-round pick from, I want to say 2018, but they were expecting him, and he wasn't an early pick, but they were expecting him to be that offensive star moving forward for them. He's got 5 assists on the year, no goals. That's in 10 games. I don't see it from him, but Jordan Kyrou is their first line, their top scoring center, centering their first line right now. It's pretty exciting for the kid. He's playing very well. Adding him and Hoffman to this lineup has been a huge boost for them offensively, but it's not just that. It's you exchange Krug for Pietrangelo, and I know they weren't traded for each other. Krug was signed, and Pietrangelo was let go and not re-signed. But that's a small. Krug is smart defender, and you have to be very smart when you're a small defender. But he's very different than Pietrangelo, and Krug makes those outlet passes a thing of beauty. And maybe they thought Parayko was now better than Pietrangelo and let him go. But you make these moves, and now you've got this offensive St. Louis Blues team, and the market's not reading them as such. And they will soon. Hammer these overs, because the market will catch up and we won't have value. A 5.5 at plus money, I mean, that's something that we can only take advantage of because it's early in the year. It won't last. And I might move, and when I said there's 6 plays, maybe 7, is I may move on that Blues team total over. That's my action for this NHL card for Thursday, February 4th. I have the Blue Jackets over 5 at minus 130. I will be moving on a team total for them, and I will be moving on the -1. I have the Canucks Leafs over 6.5 at minus 120, and I will be moving on a Canucks team total over. I think they bounced back right now after playing the Habs. 2 rough losses. Then I'm on the over 5.5 at plus 115 in Arizona St. Louis, and I may be moving on the Blues team total over. Let's have a good night. Let's get that cash. Let's continue moving in the right direction in NHL. Every year we get very hot at some point. How about now? How about right now? Let's get paid in full. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for your support. The more support we get for these videos, the more time I can put into them. So thank you if you've hit the like button. Thank you for subscribing to odds.com. But let's get paid in full. Most importantly, let's get